All right. Hey, good morning, YouTube. What's going on, folks? How is your morning? Looks like you folks to the east of here are getting all kinds of weather. We're supposed to be getting some snow later ourselves. We can all celebrate together. All right. Midweek. See if we can get through unscathed today. I've already taken a hit point damage. Somebody unplugged the coffee maker and didn't plug it back in. Those will be punished accordingly. Yeah, lots of big weather, it looks like, out to the east there. Snow, rain, all kinds of madness. Angel R's with us. Good morning. Jay Ufam, Barry Wood, the Delaware Patriot. Winter is coming. If it's not already there, Delaware, it looks like it's right on top of you. Yeah, pretty much. 10 inches of snow for you, Barry. Nice, nice. CE, is that a common error? A current era? Or does it have some other meaning? That's Google Music. Nothing special. It's on their free library. I couldn't even tell you who it is. 2 feet. Yeah, Barry, we've been getting slammed with snow ourselves. Tahoe, I mean, it ranges from 6 to 10 feet, depending on where you're at, that they got over the weekend. That was just the weekend. It was a good time. With more to come, as you can tell, if you will, maybe. It's not doesn't look nearly as intimidating as what's going on in the Midwest. But back to my coffee subject of the day. Finally got it lined up. So we're ready to roll here. Close that out. But I hope everybody survived a successful weekend that hopefully was longer than most, hopefully. We were just in the snow, out of the snow, avoiding the snow, watching the snow. That's pretty much been the story of the weekend. It makes for a mess when it all thaws out that we're having to deal with now. It's pretty much our story, and we're sticking to it. Jay from wonders if any of the global warming people are protesting. Oh, I'm sure there's at least one protest going on. So our favorite subject, Venezuela, is now on the front page of the Drudge. Like we didn't warn you this was coming like a year and a half ago. But as we've been saying, stay out of it. It'll all fall apart soon enough. But now it's going to get worse. Somebody's going to decide they have to fight over it. So we'll check in on that. We got the morning pre-market. What's going on here? Everything's my coffee maker's unplugged. Now my internet doesn't want to work. Supposedly we're going to get a trade deal with China, which you would think is somewhat directly linked to Venezuela because the Chinese are in Venezuela. We'll see how that all plays out. It would be good to see a global warming protest on the front of the Drudge there with it's sitting in the snow or something. Wonder who has been had more than the other. CE, that's you had to change your name? What? Who is this? I changed my name and have to wait to change it back. Like I'm supposed to know who that is. Let's see. We shall see, I guess. Don't recognize it. Mystery continues. Guess I'll have to take your word for it. So Venezuela. So I know that there was that aid was flown into Colombia and Brazil from us and the EU and whatnot. And then there was the whole thing about they were blocking the highways to prevent foreign aid from coming into Venezuela. Because it's it's a good staging area for if you want to create an insurgent movement, bring in aid to places where the government doesn't serve, and it's a good way to get your insurgency started. That's a good technique. Not that we haven't been doing it to begin with. Um, but it says Venezuelan troops will remain stationed on the country's borders to prevent territorial violations. Ahead of plans to bring in humanitarian aid to alleviate the crisis, which that's not going to alleviate your economic crisis. It's just going to give people food. That economic disaster is still going to remain. Now it says here he's rejected offers of food and medicine from foreign countries, but I think China brought a pretty big package of aid in after that oil deal back in the summer. But they will probably won't mention anything about that. If the U.S. can't save them, who possibly could, right? How about elves? They don't want help, leave. Trump warned Venezuela's military that are warned the military that are remaining loyal to Maduro that they would find no safe harbor, no easy exit, and no way out. Can't believe, yeah, this is ridiculous. It's pretty sad, isn't it, Angel? It's something we could have just kept out of and picked up the pieces. Instead, we're going to try to start a war over this disaster. Interesting. I don't see any quotes from Brazil, which you would think would be the real one that stands to gain the most if they got involved. Oh, here it is down here. Maduro retains the backing of Russia and China. There it is. In case people forgot what's really going on behind the scenes here. Chile has thrown their hat in the mix, saying the Chilean president saying he accepted the invitation of the usurping president Duque. They want to send a clear message of a prompt and peaceful solution to Venezuela's grave crisis. Well, where were you at 2 years ago when it was really a crisis and not a manipulated event? Sad, sad stuff. So what is the invasion of Venezuela going to distract us from would be maybe a question. Or is this going to go away if we get a good trade deal with China? Most Latin American countries now recognize. Oh, that was Colombia is president talking to Chile. Never mind. Most Latin American countries now recognize Guaido. Guaido's the other guy. Bolivia, Cuba, and Nicaragua still supporting Maduro. So continuing to manifest war, it looks like. Go figure. It's like you can't off raid unless they have it our way, unfortunately. So that is where I guess you figured it would end up in the end. Um, I wouldn't say it's a surprise, but it doesn't have to go that way, that's for sure. I wonder if oil has anything to do with it. See if I can get my coffee going here to rev this up a little bit. Oh, Christine. Okay. If you say so. Jay from the interview a couple nights ago from the director of the FBI made you shudder. You think so, huh? Possible coup? I don't know that I would be convinced. Latin American tour, right? Yeah, the LCIA is in full effect, aren't they? It's the same dance as in Ukraine, really, with just a little bit closer to us. In Delaware, you think it's only about oil? Yeah, it's interesting how much the oil prices have dropped in preceding a lot of this, and it'd be interesting to see that once we had control of supply, either with a puppet or a change of some sort, how much prices might go back up. I mean, people in Texas are loving it, but as what was it? Last month we were documenting the biggest output of oil from the U.S. since the 70s, but that's even without the highest prices. I mean, we're still below 60. Output's going to look like when we hit 75 or something. But Venezuela's output's been way down over the last couple of years, partially because of their own decisions and partially because people left the country and companies left the country with all their infrastructure in place, etc. See where we're at. Zero Hedge has got going on. I haven't even checked them out yet lately. Tax evasion fine. How about Amazon? Talk about tax evasion. Amazon doesn't pay taxes. Wish we could all get the Amazon plan. If we could all just not pay taxes, you know how much better off we'd all be? I wonder if this is where this is like a Cheney airport. Small town has 1,000 registered aircraft, but no airport. Interesting. Nothing off the wall. Doesn't seem like. What else is going on out there on the rest of the side of the earth other than all that weather you guys got over there? Looks like the Zero Hedge has some good articles to look up in on if you want to get over there and see what they got reporting on. Some looks like they've been doing some deep dive research. Will the trade war lead to the real war with China? That is the big question. Or is the trade war just an extension of the real world war that's coming? This is interesting. From last night. Looks like it got posted. That would be the big question I think we've been asking now for over 2 years on here. I've been looking into this and all the moves China makes in the Seychelles Islands and the South China Sea and the Philippines and Taiwan, elsewhere in the Pacific. It seems like it's all been chess moves leading in this direction, not to mention the economic stuff. What we got here? Third option checking in. What's going on? Third LS is with us. Good morning. Third wants the Green New Deal. So you can get paid for not wanting to work. You can get paid under that deal. I didn't realize that there was payments involved in that third. Okay, I didn't read it closely enough. I thought we all had to work harder so that we could just get more solar energy for nobody to use. Hey, what's up, Wes? How's things up there in Tejas? Looks like you may have avoided most of the weather that compared to what the rest of everybody else is getting. Yeah, which article about China? This one right here. I was going to go through on the zero hedge. If that's what you're talking about. Hey, good morning, Iron Witch. Hope all finds you dry and out of the weather. It looks like a lot of people aren't going to be so lucky. So, what the zero hedge got going on here? Is this going to lead to real war? Are we stupid enough to get into a war? um, this is via consortium news that Zero Hedge is used for this article, it looks like. Oh, goodness. They're going to start with 500 years ago. They're really making a deep dive into history here. 500 years ago, Cortez began the European annihilation of the Mayans and Aztecs and other indigenous in the Western Civil Hemisphere. 6 months later, in August of 1519, Magellan launched circumnavigation of the globe. For 5 centuries thereafter, a series of Western powers overturned pre-existing regional orders as they imposed their own world. That era has now come to an end. Interesting perspective. In the final phases of the age of Western dominance, Americans made and enforced the rules. We were empowered to do so in two phases. First, 1880, the United States became the world's largest economy. Then in 1945, after World War II, all that, obviously the world's largest military. Communist China challenged our new sphere of influence. In response, we placed our defeated enemies, Germany, Italy, Japan, our wartime allies, and most countries previously occupied by our enemies under American protection. Okay. We called allies, soon returned to wealth and power, but maintained our protectorates. Now other countries like China and India are rising to challenge our global supremacy. So Donald Trump has raised a very pertinent question. Should states with the formidable capabilities long-standing American allies now have still be partial wards of the U.S. taxpayer? Right? Well, this is going to be pretty deep. I think you're right, C. Um, we'll try to hit the highlights. If I can go through this, we could probably take a whole hour just looking at this. And we've long called for the removal of taxpayer money from Europe, Germany, the EU, Japan, Israel, Taiwan, everybody else, because it's not like it's all not all made up anyway. Yeah, do these threats menace U.S. interest, etc. Questions about our allies facing threats. These questions that are discomforting. These questions are discomforting to the military-industrial complex and invite severe ankle biting. But some have called the blob, the partisans of the warfare state now entrenched in Washington. Right? Smedley Butler was right. We Americans are not considering them. Well, many people have been considering that for a long time and found the answer to be no. There is no justification for our intervention throughout the world, but others don't feel that way. Instead, we have finessed debate by designating both Russia and China as adversaries that must be countered at every turn, right? It's that's definitely true. They're seen as adversaries, not as people you can partner with and trade with, which we aired from that perspective a long, long time ago. So no one in the United States now seems prepared to defend either China or Russia against the charge that they, not we, are responsible for our current national dysfunction and malaise. China and Russia are blamed for our malaise. How about the Federal Reserve Bank? See, I did it. I can tell you who's responsible for our malaise, but you guys go on arguing about Russia and China. Yeah, I think as far as the mainstream goes, though, that it's easily point fingers back. You know, we've been in endless war for 19 years for no reason, and somehow it's Russia and China's fault. Yeah, I can see how this has went downhill from a populist perspective, and thus kind of the push of the populist movement that we're dealing with. It says, after all, we're the best. Russia's a rogue and China's an unfair competitor. Yeah, so it kind of breaks down. It looks like how we blame everybody else for our problems, but excuse our own transgressions and don't even look at our own transgressions of our own ideals, which we ignore on a daily basis, really. And ignoring a China, no margin for error. States that I suspect that if there were that many people crammed to the United States, Americans would want to have a much lower tolerance for social disorder and a different attitude towards family planning than we do now. About our perspective of how they do population control over there. What's worse is the U.S. and the West have undermined themselves, one, by not standing up for their own principles, but also by just inviting foreign invasion. But that's a whole separate thing about population growth. Talking about China's extreme growth, fighting the last war. Yeah, I would say we're probably fighting the last war. China has moved on. China took up industrialism, but like the U.S. and Japan in the earlier days, China is now itself becoming an exporter, not just of capital, but advanced technology. The end of the 21st century's second decade is remarkably inauspicious for us to be severing ties with scientists, technologists, engineers, and mathematicians in China. On its own, China now graduates 1.8 million students, engineers, and mathematicians annually. It is about to overtake us in the number of doctorates it confers in these fields. Meanwhile, we're trying to force every American into a humanities education so they get their liberal arts degree for free, of course. That's our focus in the U.S. is just go get your degree, free college, instead of working for something that you actually might be productive in. So yeah, it's probably a pretty good article to read into in depth if you get into that. It goes on. I can see what they're talking about, the leveraging of China is far advanced in the game. They're much better at chess than we are to begin with, because really our corrupt banking system is just bleeding the system, really putting the U.S. in a position to be successful in this type of endeavor, which is our weakest point, is we're not financially, economically set up to deal with China. And a lot of that's because of central banking that we're working with. We're not working off of good footing with 22 plus trillion in debt and all the other just exuberant debt that we froth around in this country. Like it says here, there's a lot to fix at home before we can make sure we have what it takes to go abroad in search of dragons to destroy. And then, yeah, trade war before the hot war. Hey, Rooster, good morning. What's going on? Let's check in the side chat here. We got Rooster checking in. West Wind Survival, Midwest Prepper. What is up? Really, I guess you could say that China's taking advantage of our weakness and positioning themselves in a position of strength, because much of it has been our own, I guess, like I said, not living up to our own ideals. And this is not saying us currently alive. The Federal Reserve was put into place long before us, and we didn't see the dangers of it at the time. It just got the frog in the pot syndrome when lured in with cheap money that trapped us in the system we're in. And we thought we were successful because of our exceptionalism and our but really they were just manipulated and taken advantage of, really taking advantage of America's willingness to work hard that put us in that advantage. And the bankers were playing behind the scenes the whole time. And when people got called them out, people and their cognitive dissonance decided to defend them instead of turning them over and burning them down. There's a good article for you about how much weather we've gotten. I mean, pretty much it's across the mountain, but it's been over here as well. We're getting quite a bit of weather. California got 18 trillion gallons of rain in February. In just February. That's how wet of a winter it's been. It's not quite 2017 wet, but we've been getting our share of snow, as you've seen. And they probably wasted every bit of it. So we'll see how their reservoirs are going to overflow potentially again. It should be interesting, to say the least. So 8 trillion gallons of rain is equivalent to 27 million Olympic-sized pools. So that's a little bit of water. So we'll see what they talk about drought this summer after 2 out of 3 winters of record rainfall. Let me look here in the side chat. Sorry, I was squirrel moment. Oh, we got RG Homesteads with us. Good morning, RG. Hope things are good down there. Manic Pyro, welcome to the chat. Maybe. Heavy frost on everything for Wes. Awesome. Cat walked across Delaware's keyboard. That's a good excuse. That sounds legit. Angel says we would be stupid enough to go to war with anyone because those declaring war won't be the ones fighting it. That's a good point, indeed. Just like the ones supporting gun confiscation aren't the ones that are going to be doing it either. But there's fools willing enough to just. That's our current problem, and that's the biggest problem. And bring in more people who are more willing order followers, order followers instead of thinkers, and the vicious cycle continues. Is the problem. You're driving west winds driving. All right. You get that home squared away. You're not like leaving, right? You're just driving around town. You haven't left yet, if I'm correct. Never forget the 963. Blame someone else. We don't have to look at ourselves, right? See, right? Angel blames us for allowing the regime to do it all, right? Rooster is mad about something. Start learning Mandarin, says Angel. I think the Chinese are smart enough to stay out our backyard for a while, Angel. They'll just let us wither away and eat each other first. Midwest says buy more ammo and break up with your liberal girlfriends. That would be good advice, right, Midwest? Hey, good morning, Common Man. Good morning. Welcome to the chat. Delaware dump all your liberal girlfriends. Yeah, Delaware's probably got more than one, I would imagine. Okay, Midwest is rubbing it in now. I think that's a slight comment at Nevada for our background check law. But of note, I can still sell a gun without a background check till January. But I don't know why you'd be selling. I think this is a buyer's market. They're still not, from what I see, prices haven't spiked or nothing like that. So I think the market might be pretty much tapped. Everybody might have their 3-gun solution, and only new purchases or people coming of age or whatnot as needed. I don't think there's a run on anything anymore. Everybody that knows they need them has got them, and I hope that's the case. Rooster, raise them water rates now. I demand it, right? You've only got 18 trillion. It'll be interesting to see how they treat the farmers, Rooster. That's the biggest one. That they treat the farmers like they're second-class citizens over there. And it'd be interesting to see how they fare this next year with just epic amounts of rain. But you can't make your own water catchment. Farmers aren't allowed to catch water, in a lot of places. So they suffer during the summer because of bad water management, like letting it all drain out the LA River. And then they still steal Northern California's water to feed places like LA. They take water from over here practically in Nevada and ship it over to LA because they just let it all run through LA and out to the ocean. I wonder how that river smelt's doing on the Sacramento River. LS might have an idea. We need that Japanese chick's method to clean up this place. If that doesn't spark joy, it's got to go. First 3 things: Congress, taxes, and public school. Everybody would be happy, right, LS? If everybody's happy, it must work. It must be right. I think that's a good start. Indeed. Oh, wait a second. Let's see what the conclusion is here on this. It's probably this is a lot of water. Oh, it's probably something like this is a lot of water, but it's not enough. Totals are likely to increase this week. Yeah, we got more rain and weather coming in. And they don't say anything about the summer farming or anything. Oh, and refreshing our. We do have more weather coming in. You're correct. It's a buyer's market. Is that thinning the herd? You're supposed to expand your herd, so you need to use all those Midwest. That's the real ultimate expansion of your fleet. Of course, like they say, if you can't feed them, don't breed them. So it's easier to keep a gun than to feed somebody. So a little bit of weather coming in for California this week. We got a little bit right now, but this past weekend was just amazing. When you look at some of the photos out of Tahoe and the snow that is stacked up along the Sierra roads. Rooster says the city I live in started adding water meters about 5 years ago. The entire city is on meters now, except where all the city workers live. Are you kidding me? Is it that out in the open and obvious, Rooster? It's hard to believe people can get away with being that, I don't know, obvious. G-Bows has all sales final, signs up on all guns. Well, who's ever heard of returning a firearm? I don't think I've ever heard of anything but all sales final, Wes. I've never heard of anybody being able to take back a gun after purchase. Third thought California was seceding. So there you can see the weather coming in tonight. It looks like hitting the Northern California the hardest. Be a little wet. It would be nice for them to get off our radar, though, right? Third, I'd much prefer a fight between each other over the things that we need to take care of than fight the Chinese anyway. We can start the Jefferson insurgency with Rooster as our primary point of contact. All right, LS, have a good day. I can't believe you're just not eating breakfast. Goodness. It's like, that's brunch. It's not breakfast. You East Coasters are weird. I thought in the South everybody got up early. Breakfast eaten before 7. All right, moving back on. Try to get back on target here. Make sure you do your exercise. 30 minutes exercise cuts blood pressure. Who knew? It's like we haven't heard this before for the last 30 years. Like, thanks for the update. I wish I could rehash old stories and just make a living off of it. So I guess having rain is a positive. Positive, right? Aurora lights up on the Drudge. Interesting. Just go back over to remember, hit up this trade war article in the Zero Hedge. It's in the links below now if you refresh or check on the description box later. Down below the video, it should be in there when you check in. Checking on the stock market, they said it was flat this morning. I wonder if Tommy Boy is stocked up on any cool coins this week. Tommy Boy just needs to do a video on all his cool stacks so I can check it out, so I can be jealous. Silver popped up above 16 this week. Gold's almost to 1,400. 1,350. There's that oil price. Still 55 is relatively cheap. I don't know why Venezuelans would be starving selling oil for $55 a gallon, but or barrel. But I reckon maybe they just had too high of expectations. Rooster, you'll be our main contact. All right, you'll kind of be on the front lines too, Rooster. You have to make your way up north of Sacramento for some reporting. I don't think the fight will be down. Jefferson will pretty much just be north of Sacramento, so be advised. Delaware says you hear about this mess in Ohio with a mistake on a new gun law that takes effect in March. Is that like the legislators passed it and didn't know what was in it type thing, Delaware? I would be shocked if that would ever happen. They would never make such a mistake, right? Exercise for a healthy body while all food is tainted with GMOs. Yeah, it's a balance, right, Angel? You have to stay on top of it all. House Bill 228. Is that from Ohio, though, Delaware? Is that what you're talking about? Rooster went to IHOP. Not impressed with their eggs. Don't you go to IHOP for the pancakes anyway? All right. So that's kind of a rundown of that stuff. We got about 10 minutes left. Maybe wants to throw anything out. Uh, what's the situation there in Ohio? Is it relatively easily there, Delaware? Or does Midwest have a link? Cut and paste there, basically making everything illegal. You think that was just a cut and paste error, or slightly in on purpose, maybe? Let me see what I got here. Ohio. Wait. Let's check out that madness. Regards self-defense and handling firearms. The Ohio Civil Liberties Union has a thing up about it. They call it a stand your ground bill as well. Permitless carry. So they made an error so that we'd have to shoot it down because it's got all the good stuff in it. It sounds like it. It was passed in November by a vote of 64 to 26 in the House. Kasich promised to veto it, but it looks like he got a supermajority, so it got passed. I don't see anything current. Let me see. Oh, wait, news. Mistake in Ohio bill would make millions of gun owners lawbreakers. 12 hours. That's almost too funny not to be true. So here's what I got. This is unreal. Midwest, what kind of madness you dealing with? Talk about subversion. So they're trying to make a bill for permitless carry and for stand your ground law, and they make a mistake, quote, end quote. Would make millions of gun owners lawbreakers. Let's check that out. A bill passed in the state house would inadvertently, inadvertently make Ohio gun owners, like, nobody caught this during the writing of this bill. Wasn't the like Ohio Gun Owners Association and like the NRA, weren't they reading this stuff in detail? How does a mistake of this magnitude get through? There's an effort underway to fix the error before the law takes effect next month. House Bill 228 was meant to expand situations in which shooting someone in self-defense is legally justified, which if you're shooting in self-defense, you should always be legally justified, but I don't know. That's just me thinking out loud, I guess. But as it currently stands, when it becomes law on March 28th, it also makes owning certain rifles, guns with pistol grips, or a weapon longer than 26 inches a felony. That was it. Did it like delete old law that retrograded back to the old 90s law or something? How does that happen? How? Oh, Midwest, you got to do a video about this. You got to explain a little bit more about how this is developed. I don't think we probably won't get the good stuff out of this article, but we'll see. It could prohibit the sale of some firearms, which we do not want. That was a mistake. Our hope is to fix that mistake by an effective date. Second Amendment advocates say the law is unconstitutional. So this representative said it would be up to each jurisdiction how they enforce the new law. And she said she doesn't believe county prosecutors would enforce that portion of it. A rally is planned for March 28th at the State House. Some want the law thrown out altogether, but that's not necessary to fix the law, says this representative. Our goal is to pass the fix before the March 28th deadline. The amendment to the new bill would need to be introduced by March 20th. I mean, dang, that's a month. You saw what happened in Nevada. When they wanted something, they got it through fast. When they want to get a bill through, it's not like it's hard. And Tani said a plan to fix the mistake was already introduced on Tuesday. A hearing should be held soon. That's very light on the details. But how do you pass a law for stand your ground and for permitless carry, but yet end up banning guns and making people felons when owning certain firearms, rifles, and without pistol grips, etc.? Or a weapon longer than 26 inches a felony. Wait, longer than 26 inches? Isn't that just backwards? So they must have been deleting a whole section of the law from previous and just deleted the wrong sections or something in the I can see that being part of the error. Wow. Unreal, Midwest. Yes, please do a video on this when you get a chance, if you get a chance. Because I don't understand. That's one of the most bizarre things I think I've ever seen. See if check on the side chat. Good stuff passed, verbiage is put in the wrong place, right, Midwest? That's what it sounds like. There's a current bill to correct it. Will it pass, I guess, is the question, Midwest. Midwest says, I'm telling you, it wasn't in the wrong place prior to voting. It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy that the law will ban guns and make you a felon, or it's a conspiracy that the law changed between it when it was voted on and when it was enacted. The language changed like mysteriously. Some admin clerk in the legislature mysteriously changed the wording of it. Delaware says it's a litmus, though. If it would have worked, they would have tried it elsewhere. So you think there's a subversion in the legislature with administrative clerks and other types rewriting stuff under dark and night, spending their night hours rewriting stuff just because they think they can? That would be an interesting conspiracy to find out who may have done that. Now you know why you did your selling this past week. Getting ahead of the game, Midwest. But that's the good stuff. You don't want to get rid of the good stuff. Although, I mean, is it legal to? What's the shortest weapon you can have? It said it made it owning a weapon longer than 26 inches a felony. Like, so you saw off your shotgun, you make it less than 26, you're set, right? And then you're crossing the feds line. You get into that range, I guess. Delaware says they're putting out a call for people to rally all on March 28th, like the Pittsburgh rally. Okay, yeah, that's kind of what they're talking about. Rooster lost his guns at a boating accident. Man, there's a lot of water over there, Rooster. I can see how that could happen. Probably got washed downstream. Will end up in L.A. somewhere or on the streets of San Francisco. West Wind's going to live stream his State of the Nation with his DD-214 in hand. Oh, that's right. You didn't get like a terminal leave or anything, did you? I remember I was out for like, when you take all your terminal leave, you're out like, I was out like 3 months before I got it mailed to me. All right, Rooster, have a good day. Enjoy. Stay out of the rain. West Wind may do a premiere on Tuesday. Angel says ban all guns and allow everyone to walk around with swords. Yeah, interesting how that'll work, Angel. It's like it's almost like natural selection will kick into gear then. You know, like survival of the fittest. Guns are the great equalizer, and liberals turn it into something that somehow is bad. Like the one thing they would support, you would think would be equalization and equal protection for all, and they're again it. Kind of strange like that. West Wind says, might lose all my subscribers when I can say how I really feel. That's interesting, West Wind. I never really change. I've always, of course, I didn't really talk much about when I was active. I didn't really talk about much about being in the military to begin with. So I didn't, I badmouthed the government equally then as I do now. I just didn't let anybody know I was in at the time. Third option, yeah, sword accidents could be real, right? We need more sword control to prevent accidents in the home, right? All right. Well, since we got that madness out of Ohio, it's kind of hard to top that today. Thanks, everybody, for checking in. Hope everybody's staying out of whatever weather you may have coming your way. Enjoy it while you can. Catch what rainwater you can while you can, if you have the opportunity. I wish I had a rain catchment set up with as much snow as we've got. We would be in good shape. Checking out the Twitter machine, see if there's anything ultimately breaking. That's what Twitter's really good for, is the breaking news, or at least breaking headlines. Whether or not it's news or not is a different thing. So be a good time. Nothing that I can see. Hey, Walter Davis, good morning. What's going on? Like you got the winter weather has overwhelmed your position, as it has most of the East Coast, it looks like. Yeah, nothing really on the front headline here of the Twitter or nothing. Anyway, so nothing too interesting, nothing earth-shattering, at least. No earthquakes, no volcanoes, at least no large-scale volcanoes. I'm sure something is putting out some sort of steam, magma, or something. Yeah, we've been short on natural disasters lately. It's kind of made the streams a little bit slower. Meanwhile, we wait for war from China. And Tommy Boy's been strangely absent from the live streams. Maybe he's the cause of all that mess. How many days till Brexit? Oh, I almost forgot about that. They've been in the muck so long now trying to do this no deal thing that Brexit is coming up really quick now. What is it, the 20th of March, something like that? March 29th. Still no deal. There'll probably be no deal. But that's the scaremongering tactic. There's a headline on the Zero Hedge. UK manufacturers deny scaremongering, fear catastrophic no deal Brexit. That is the scaremonger tactic. Hey, Killdeer Survival, good morning. All right, so I'll leave it at that. We can't beat a dead horse much longer, and we got to roll out eventually. So y'all have a good day. Stay dry, keep your powder dry. Live free.